Good morning and welcome to another episode of Kaizen Spotlight. We are in conversation with a very tall personality this morning, and it's an absolute pleasure to have Vimal Shah joining us from Nairobi this morning. Welcome, Vimal San. Thank you very much for joining us. What can I say? Vimal Shah has been personally for me a friend, philosopher, and a guide, a big inspiration in my life. And I've had the pleasure of knowing him personally and professionally. It started off professionally for over 2 decades now. And it's extremely difficult for me to read out his CV because it's going to probably take half of this interaction, this time we have allotted for the interaction. But a few nuggets, very important for me to share with you. He's, of course, the founding director and the chairman of BIDCO Africa, one of the largest business groups operating across East Africa with interest, of course, in edible oils, soaps, detergents, now into beverages, food. He's also has been an investor in the floriculture business and several other businesses across Africa. They have business interests in Madagascar, in Tanzania, Uganda, and other countries. And of course, Vimal Shah has been the chairman of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, the chairman of the KEMSA, and so many different organizations have benefited by his leadership and his commitment to moving I think the one thing that is very passionate for Vimal Shah is the African agenda, as he says. He truly believes in the spirit of entrepreneurship, truly believes that Africa and its people can build their own future by investing in ideas, investing in entrepreneurship. So that's the way forward. So welcome again. Apologies if I've missed out some of the key elements of such a wide career and such a rich life that you have been leading. My first question to you is BIDCO going back to 1999. So what has been the impact of Kaizen in your life personally? That's the first thing that I want you to reflect on.
Thank you, Jayant, and thank you to the Kaizen Institute. I think first and foremost, the impact on myself has been I've got a new pair of lenses to wear on my specs. And I think the way you look at it through Kaizen, before and after, is you get a specs where you look at things differently. You look at what is, the word muda, mura, and muri. These are coming straight to in your mind, and you start talking about that. But I think the impact it's made is to say, question everything and ask the right questions. And that made a huge difference in all systems, because now you actually learn to question the things in a way, why is this, why is that, and then you get to the root causes. So there are a lot of tools and techniques that it has given me. So I'm now armed with a toolbox of a lot of things, and therefore I see things differently.
Yes, and I totally agree with you. A lot of people who interact with you and who have been exposed to Kaizen, they say Mr. Vimal Shah draws upon the word muda so often in his conversation. And some people wonder what this word is all about. So you have been a true champion of Kaizen, a true muda burster, if I can say that. So yes, in your personal life, the philosophy of Kaizen, of course, has been a great influence. What has been the influence of these practices, the pursuit of excellence, Kaizen, in your own business in BIDCO? How has that helped you remain as an organization?
I think overall it's been 20 odd years, slightly more than that, since we've started this journey. And I say it's a journey because it still continues, it never ends, and you keep on this journey all the time. So the impact it's made is you actually get more and more throughput from the same systems. And I think it unblocks a lot of the impediments to flow, and the flow is a big catchword in Kaizen. And I think this is where cash flow, inventory flow, product flow, information flows, every flow has sort of increased in terms of its speed. And I think that's important. Plus, we really find out where are the blockages. And I think these blockages are what we unblock all the time. In other languages, they call it bottlenecks and all that stuff. I think here it's more about how to improve flow. And the impact it's had is from the same premises, from the same facilities, your throughput, our throughputs have doubled, and without adding a lot more of inventory or a lot more of warehouse space. And you learn to see things differently, and I really see that, look, inventory is a muda, it's a waste. You don't need a lot of inventory. And you can actually improve the throughput. So we've been able to grow much, much faster. And then, of course, came the lean design and new factories coming up, where we actually employed the new or the learnings from how to avoid unnecessary travel, unnecessary movement, a lot of unnecessary things that in a normal business, people do a lot of handoffs. So I think that's changed a lot. So overall, I'd say the speed of throughput has gone up, and the throughputs have gone up to the same facilities, same infrastructure.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm going to move forward, because you have such a huge impact and contribution to the public life, if I can say so. You sit on so many boards, you chair so many causes, which are related with the industry, with governments, etc. So what do you think is, number one, is the need for Kaizen in governance and government? And my second part is, do you think the governments have really woken up to this? Are they even looking at operational excellence, continual improvement? And if not, what do you think should be done to sort of push this agenda?
I think first and foremost, let me put it the other way around. Kaizen can be used anywhere. It can be used in the home, it can be used around me, it can be used around my company, around the county, around the government, around the social organizations, through service industries or to manufacturing industries. And I think everybody needs to learn the ways and means of doing it. And I think it's required everywhere. At the end of it all, we're all serving some customer at the end, or a consumer. And that customer or consumer for the government is the people, right? And that service that they give needs to flow through much faster. They need to remove a lot of the impediments where, earlier you see the banks with a lot of banking counters and people lining up, and they're gone now. So it's all clueless. I think this waiting is a muda. So any side of waiting by the consumer or by the customer or by the public for government services becomes a very simple thing to sort out. So in that same manner, in every other place, I think you can use it everywhere, anywhere. Processes can use it a lot, even in offices, even in financial processes, and even in accounting. You can do a lot more. So I think this is a never-ending journey, and we can use it everywhere.
Do you think the governments are even looking at it? Because I have been talking about don't cut cost, cut waste. Because just an example is, I was doing some kind of high-level analysis. For example, in India, the government talks about adding X number of kilometers of roads per day. It's a very big project, very important. I'm not disputing the requirement here. But I did some analysis, and in our existing roads, there is so much of challenges to flow of traffic. If you just de-bottleneck the roads, better flow, remove encroachment, bring in traffic management, very simple things, doesn't cost money. You can release almost 40-50% capacities, and you can probably, instead of building new roads, maybe some part of that money can be allocated to probably health or something else. So I think that the governments really need to push this agenda, looking at operational excellence. Anything that has happened in Kenya, which you would like to share in terms of how the governments have been able to use this?
Very simply, I just believe that governments haven't woken up to the fact that this can be used in such a big way. In fact, it makes it zero investment improvements, and you can do so much more without investing a lot of money. But normally, government being government, they want to do mega projects, they want to get big budgets and put things in such a way that they do it the old school. I think we need to get everybody to wake up to it and say, you can do zero investment improvements if you just improve the flow. I'm not saying there won't be a need to build new roads, because as we go, you will have to have new roads. But at the same time, we can actually improve the flows through everything. In fact, just making time, flexi time in terms of office hours, Rather than say start sharp at 8 o'clock in the morning, you could start in different hours. You could actually remove a lot of the incoming and outgoing flows. So a lot of things can be sorted out and paradigms can be busted. But the governments have not just woken up to it. And I think probably Kaizen Institute has not really advertised itself well, or
Absolutely.
not been able to reach them well. And I think government hasn't woken up. So I think this is where today, in a co-COVID world, in a post-COVID world, we probably need to wake up to this and say, fine, we can do this without investment. So I guess it's time for all of us to become ambassadors and really propose zero investment improvements.
Absolutely. So that sort of brings me towards the end of this conversation. I have two more quick questions. Number one is, we are seeing the world is going topsy-turvy and a lot of things because of COVID-19. So any message, any reflections for the business, with respect to the current situation?
I think very simply, even if we look at what is the situation right now, what is COVID and what has happened in COVID, I think it's more and more of a health issue and a concern that was there before, but we never took care of the entire healthcare systems. We could never service the healthcare in a way where it was required. In fact, healthcare is required at every doorstep. And we still sit in with big, large places somewhere, which is a center of excellence, and we make it so good that everybody has to travel there. So I think with a co-COVID world and going forward, healthcare in the homes could become a big thing. And I think this is where you could do so much more Kaizen to see, identify, pick up what's really happening. So I think overall, going forward, in my opinion, I think whether you take healthcare, whether you take logistics, whether you take transport, supply chains, and I think this is a big issue of supply chains, where this can be used everywhere. In fact, even in agriculture, we do that in our farms also in agriculture, and you do something called agri-zen. And I think you coined up that word, Jen.
Yes.
Put it together and say, fine, how do we do the planting? We need to increase our yield per acre. We need to increase our harvests. So overall, I think it can be applied everywhere. We just need to wake up to it. Countries are short of money. They're going to go and tax these citizens left, right, and center for all that money. And I think this is where we can actually tell people, look, you don't have to tax people more, improve the flows, remove the impediments to flow. A lot of this thing about bureaucracy and approvals. People go for approvals of 10, 20 different things, and it takes 6 months to 1 year to 2 years to approve a project. When it's a COVID world and you've got a pandemic, it takes weeks, minutes. I mean, in 10 days, if China could build a hospital, then what's stopping us from doing a lot of these things much more faster? So I guess the speed needs to increase, the intensity of people needs to go better. And I think this way, if we all wear the specs of looking at everything with Muda, Mura, and Muri, and these new lenses, I think Kaizen could be a big, big thing without any new investments, without taxing people.
Absolutely. I think one thing that has proven during this past 100-odd days is that when push comes to a shove, a lot of things get done. I think that is bureaucracy has been the walls of bureaucracy have been torn down, and approvals, as you said, things have happened very fast. This what we call as the Kaizen Spotlight is a series of conversations that we are having with Kaizen champions like you. Thank you very much for giving us your precious time on the morning hours. And this is a format which is supposed to be 10, 12 minutes. The attention span of people, is very limited nowadays. So we want to keep it compact and extract nuggets from people like you. So thank you very much for your time, sir, and thank you for being on this conversation with us. And I'm sure whatever you have shared with us will be watched and will be very value adding and inspiring for a lot of people. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jayant, and let's all Kaizen it. Thank you.
Thank you.